Hello and welcome to Election Brief. I'm Marva Kumson, and coming up in this edition, Electoral Commission reveals it has dispatched ballot papers to the regions and electoral roll to political parties with 18 days to the December polls, and says it will declare the results 24 hours after the election.
We have introduced collation at the regions. So apart from collation at the constituency and the national, we will do in between the regions. So national will only collate 16 results. And our plan is that all things being equal, by the next day, before we go to bed, we'll have declared the results. So our plan is that we want to declare results on the 8th of December.
Also, proliferation of arms, robberies, and ill-resourced police service. Today, in our series Safety for My Vote, we'll take you to the Northeast region, where 60 hotspots have been identified.
And while we are here for this time, we are now in the jungle, but we don't even understand this town for this time. Each time they are robbing, evening, morning, night, afternoon. At any time they can attack. And National Disaster Management Organization ready to deal with any humanitarian situation that may arise during the December elections. We have more from their election simulation exercise.
We're running a simulation in preparedness towards the general election. We believe if the election will be successful, there are a lot of activities that go on behind the scenes.
All these and more coming up in the next 55 minutes. I'm Marva Kumson, and Election Brief is available on our social media handles, including Facebook and Instagram as well. And as always, it's brought to you by Petrosol. Stay tuned in. Thanks for staying with us. Now, the Electoral Commission has revealed it has dispatched ballot papers to the regions and that the electoral roll has been dispatched to the various political parties with 18 days to the December polls. The Commission also says it will declare results within 24 hours after the election. According to the EC, this election will go down in electoral history of the country as the best compared to the previous ones held. Director of Electoral Services, Dr. Strebo Kwaku, has been speaking to my colleague, Israel Lai.
Hi, good afternoon, Dr. Strebo Kwaku. So we've had a conversation where you're saying that this election, as far as you're concerned, is going to be the best ever. What gives you that optimism?
I'm saying so in the sense that we have learned from our previous challenges and we have planned towards this election. And I think for the first time, almost all our materials are at the regions more than 2 weeks to the election. And I know by the course of tomorrow, our registered and ballot papers will be at the regions. So that tells you that we have planned ahead of time, and we are sure that the parties are also involved. And it's like one thing that I want to put across is that we give the races to the political parties almost 2 weeks now, and nobody has uttered any word about it. So my conviction is that now all the challenges that came about during the exhibition has been addressed. That's why they have the races and they are not complaining.
With the problem maybe bidding time, and they come back to want to complain.
Oh, if immediately they got them, if there were complaints, they will not sleep. You know the politicians in Ghana. If the moment they identify a problem, they have to talk about it. So I am convinced that they realize that we have addressed all the challenges that came about during the exhibition. That's why they are not complaining.
How different is this election going to be, apart from some of the challenges you say you've identified? Yeah,
you see, for instance, if you look at the CI 127 that is governing this election, we have introduced collation at the regions. So apart from collation at the constituency and the national, we will do in between the regions. So national will only collate 16 results. And our plan is that all things being equal, by the next day, before we go to bed, we'll have declared the results. So our plan is that we want to declare results on the 8th of December. That's why I said that this year's election is going to be the best, because we have put in place all the planning that it needs, and we are getting all the support that we need. All the logistics have been put in place. The regions and the districts have been asked to submit what they will need to make our dream of declaring the results the next day a reality.
How about the very far-flung areas? There are some places in this country where you can't easily access.
All
those places also
they should put in place all the mechanisms. If it needs airlifting, we will do that. It will interest you to know that with the exception of Greater Accra, Eastern and Volta region, all the BVR cases that were used for research were airlifted. So there's the Air Force people are on standby. So if they need arises that we need to use a helicopter and the rest to convey anybody, they will do that. So we are hoping that we'll be able to achieve our goal of declaring the results on the 8th of December.
Right, but this would also mean that the districts that you're talking about that have challenges, if they submit the requirements and you're able to take care of them, so there are some clauses or conditions based on your ability to provide for them.
We know what we are stepping on, that's why we are saying we will do that. So let them bring them and we'll address them. The truth is that 2 hours after elections, the polling stations results are available. So what delays these things are means of transportation. So we've asked them to come out with how best they can transport the results to the various collation centers. And once we get them at the constituency to region will not be an issue. And once it is at the region to national too will not be an issue. So we are planning and we are hoping that all our plans will come into reality and we'll declare the results by the close of the 8th of December.
There's also been the issue of the special voters list and some who haven't managed to have their names on it. Is there a way to put them back on, or there's nothing you can do at this point?
Once the register is out, the issue is that once your name is put on the special voting, it should be removed from the register and put on absent voters list, so that you will not vote on the special day, which is 1st December, and go and vote on the 7th December. So once the registers are out, we cannot alter it, because if you alter it, it would mean that you have to withdraw the register. So what we are saying is that all those people are going to be accredited, especially the media. The police, their uniform, they know themselves. So the IGP, I know, has sent a message that they want to know those whose name were not captured, so they will put close to their polling stations. Then they use the media to, because of your accreditation, you go to the polling station early enough, you will not join the queue, you are cleared to vote. When you finish voting, you can go to wherever you want to go.
Okay, so the various presiding officers have been told about this?
It's part of the training, so they know.
Let's stay on elections, because member of the UN mediation team and security analyst Emmanuel Bombande is of the opinion plans and laws alone will not ensure peaceful elections on December 7. He and speakers at an election colloquium organized by the Star Ghana Foundation in collaboration with the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Center have prescribed naming and shaming individuals in media houses which incite violence and spread misinformation as one of the ways to curb violence in the upcoming election.
The colloquium was to consider lessons learned from previous elections to ensure the 2020 election is peaceful. In setting the tone for the conversation, the Executive Director of CDD Ghana, Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, highlighted some red flags which could negatively impact the peacefulness of the polls.
What really is on our minds mostly when we talk about election peace and security, the issue of political vigilantism, which has been a matter that has come to the fore certainly since the 2008 elections, but even before that. But I think has grown and gained greater national notoriety since the 2016 elections. I think it began to emerge soon after the elections in a number of post-election incidents, as well as during the transition between the two parties. But I think it reached its lowest ebb with the events surrounding the Ayawaso West Wagon by-election.
Superintendent Henry Ayisi Mensah, who represented the IGP, assured a number of measures have been instituted to avert some of the lapses identified in previous elections.
As the lead internal security organization and the chair of the National Election Security Task Force, we acknowledge the fact that the stakes are high in terms of security. So a number of pragmatic measures have been put in place towards the forthcoming election, before, during, and after. We have conducted a very comprehensive threat assessment, and we've identified quite a number of issues that we think can have a negative impact on the forthcoming elections.
Member of the UN mediation team, Emmanuel Bombande, was however of the opinion the plans and laws alone will not suffice.
I am committed to non-violence in the elections, rather than there is a law on vigilantism. The two are different. When you say the law on vigilantism will deal with you on a political platform, you are transferring responsibility for somebody else to do something. And you enumerated the difficulties about that. But when you begin with I, for example, I sitting here, I'm committed to non-violence. That is me. Before then we talk about anything else, it makes a difference. I wish there could be the type of support for our Peace Council to engage in the inter-party dialogue. For example, not all, because you cannot do it, but I know they are working with our think tanks and civil society. I know, for example, a lot of this has happened already with CBD Ghana across the region.
The Electoral Commission on its part says it remains ready to deliver on its mandate. Chairman of the National Peace Council, Reverend Ernest Edujimfi, highlighted the challenge of religious leaders making pronouncements which could spark conflict.
Well, we are all worried about the ministers who give prophecies and things concerning election. Our appeal to them is that as much as possible, we believe that prophecy still exists, that we need to exercise wisdom in speaking out some of these things so that we don't create unnecessary tension in our country. From the angle of the Peace Council, because of our representation on the council with the various heads of religious organizations, we are seeking to use our members to appeal to their people to do the best they can to tone down some of these things.
There was a call for the naming and shaming of media houses which incite violence and spread misinformation.
Now, the National Disaster Management Organization says it is ready to deal with any humanitarian situation that may arise during the December elections. Speaking during a simulation exercise involving all the security agencies, Deputy Director General Abu Ramadan said NADMO is using the power of teleconferencing to assess its teams in 13 regions ahead of the polls.
What the situation is?
Yes, for now, the reports of the 8113.
We are at the NADMO headquarters here. What's happening behind me is a pre-election simulation. You can see a lot of things happening in here in the background. At the top there's kind of like a video conferencing with people who will be playing other major roles also in different parts of the country. But we have the Deputy NADMO boss here with us.
Basically, we're running a simulation in preparedness towards the general election. We believe if the election will be successful, there are a lot of activities that go on behind the scenes, and to check the readiness of the various agencies. NADMO as a coordinating agency is clouded with a mandate to make sure that we coordinate activities of that nature so that we can prevent disasters from happening, and this is one form of it. So here you can see the immigration, fire service, national security, police, all the security agencies are participating in this exercise, and it's going on in 12 regions out of the 16 regions of the country, 13 regions out of the 16 regions of the country. And as you can see, we're applying the use of technology to go live based on the situation we find ourselves currently as a nation or as a world finds itself. So we are trying to use technology too as well to see how best we can fuse the two, marry the two in terms of running the simulation, the exercise itself on election day, to make sure that we are ready for any situation and we are prepared for it. So that's what you can see we're doing currently.
So specifically, what issues or what matters would you be looking at and what would you be monitoring?
Well, General, humanitarian, which is our mandate, our core mandate, to provide humanitarian support in terms of disasters. But aside that too as well, we're also looking at how best we can get a quick coordination should it happen. And you know, the normal situations, as you've seen so far, the scenarios that have come out has to do with disagreements in terms of the candidates not winning, some constituencies, ballot boxes that have been stolen. And out as a result of that, the humanitarian bit of it, what is it that NADMO needs to do, what it is that the other agencies need to help us coordinate to make sure that we provide that support. And
so far, what will be your rating of what you've seen so far? What's your assessment of what is happening here? Do you think we are ready for it?
We have facilitators who are like our examiners in this whole exercise. When we're done, we'll have a conference to assess the situation, our performance, and on the basis of that, we can score ourselves good or bad when we finish. And we'll have response from all the 13 regional UCs that will be activated also. The way they carry themselves and how the response from the various agencies, how we went, and all of that. So we can't give score now. Let's finish the exercise.
You have various security agencies represented here at the NADMO headquarters, all taking part in this simulation to ensure that we have a hitch-free election day come December 7th. I have a rep from the Ghana Immigration Service.
Isaac Osumensa, Head of Border Management, Commissioner of the Ghana Immigration Service.
Where will you be playing?
Yeah, we will be at the National Operations Room, obviously, as you can see. But then we will also be liaising with all the border agencies at the National Operations Room to ensure that the borders are kept as secure as possible, to make sure that we will not have any infiltrations or persons living in the country. We'll make sure the border situation is as peaceful and as quiet as possible.
So what would you say are the learnings from this simulation?
Yeah, for this simulation exercise, we are looking at a very real scenario where we have a current president who has been in power for 4 years, being contested by the former president who also was in power for 4 years. So the scenarios have been generated where we have incidents, pockets of violence. We are not saying there will be anything like that, but we are looking at a scenario where the NADMO, as well as all the security agencies, can come together in a worst-case scenario to be able to preempt humanitarian crisis, which may come up on or after the election.
You're still watching Election Brief with me, Arabukum. So let's turn our attention on security. And for a population of nearly 600,000, the Northeast region has only 6 police vehicles, one of which was recently involved in an accident, killing 1 police officer. Today in our series on security in electoral hotspot communities, dubbed Safety for My Vote, we are in the region where Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia will be voting on December 7, a region that has recorded several armed robberies recently, and residents there want the police services there to be resourced ahead of the elections. Correspondent Elias Utanko has our story for today.
The Northeast region has had notable existing threats, from chieftaincy and ethnic clashes to armed robbery, which all point to proliferations of arms. Concerns are raised. This will make it difficult for security agencies here to contain situations that may arise at the 60 identified electoral hotspots during and after the elections. For many, the phenomenon of politically connected people being left off the hook dampens the hope of violence-free election.
When they arrest somebody, and it happens like political matters, people take politics into armed robbery. And to arrest one party member with a gun, Alhajis and imams, they will go and talk on behalf of the man because they are having political decisions in it. So they will release the man. Even if they catch him with a gun, they will go and talk on behalf of the armed robber, because that is just very silence. So at the end, they will leave the armed robber and come to go back to the house. It is not good.
There has not been notable recent political violence in the Northeast region, but in Wale Wale alone, where Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia will be voting on December 7th, police has identified at least 30 electoral hotspots. Residents are worried about increasing activities of the gunmen as the elections approach.
We are just appealing because from Wale Wale to Buge is also not safe. So we are just appealing to the municipal chief executive, the security council, the commander in the Wale Wale municipal to just beef up the security, because we are in the election year and the Christmas too is around the corner. Because when it's never getting to Christmas, the out-of-bed situation normally increases.
In Wale Wale here for this time, we are now in the jungle, or we can't even understand this town for this time. Each time they are robbing, evening, morning, night, afternoon. At any time they can attack. And we have police station here. We have security personnel here. And how come and these things are all happening when we are having personnel, security services here?
Just recently that we are about to vote, then they came in that they are constructing the road. Halfway, they have stopped. Even the armed robbers point, that is the particular place that we are encountering. They did not do anything there. They just find small gravel and see sand that they are going to construct a bridge. And up to date, nothing has happened there.
Let's go on the line and speak to Bakari Abdullah. He is the NDC's parliamentary candidate for the Wale Wale constituency. Many thanks for your time, Mr. Bakari. Now, first of all, you are hoping to represent the people of this constituency. What would you say, and you live in the constituency, what would you say accounts for the increase or the rise in the crime rate? Hello, Mr. Bakari.
Hello, I can hardly hear you, madam.
Okay, let's try this one more time. I'm saying that your constituents are concerned about the security situation in Wale Wale. You are hoping to represent them come December 7. First of all, tell us, because you live in the area, what accounts for the crime rate, the increasing crime rate in the area?
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on a matter that is of a very serious concern to my people. We all know that development is needed by everyone, and the conditions under which development can be given is when people have security. So the security situation is actually a border to everybody. And I am not only a person who lives in the community, but also somebody who, because of the opportunity that I got to be the regional minister, I presided over the Regional Security Council, and that I can at least speak to some of the issues based on that experience. The increasing rate of crime in this area, unfortunately, even daylight robbery in the afternoon in the center of the community, you have young men coming in to harass people at gunpoint to seize their property, and sometimes not only to seize the property, but some kind of wanton shooting about, trying to kill people to take away some few things. I think one of the factors that's actually responsible for the situation is the fact that the unemployment situation in Ghana is a factor, and I believe that most of the young men who had some other job that were giving them some source of livelihood have lost those source of livelihood, and they are finding robbery as a means to eke out a living. Unfortunately, also, most of the robbery in this particular area happen in areas that are on the way to market centers, and these roads are also very terrible and bad, to the extent that people, motorists and vehicles that apply these roads will cannot speed away when they see danger. And for that matter, they usually will hide in certain areas where it is difficult, where mobility is a bit difficult, and then ambush on the people and seize their property. So the bad nature of the roads in the area, for me, or convincingly, is part of the reason for which the situation is getting out of hand. Mm-hmm. And then, unfortunately, maybe perhaps the inactive or lack of proactiveness on the part of the security agencies, because the situation in Wale Wale is quite helpless, that they hardly will apprehend a single armed robber when this thing happens. And that is quite unfortunate.
We did try to reach out to the police, and we'll keep reaching out to the police to get a sense of what is being done to stem the rise in the crime rate. But we're told that the region has as many as 60 hotspots. Going into this election, is that a worry for you?
It is of a very profound concern to every person who lives in this area, particularly that we are just at the eve of an election, because election-related violence can also be disguised in a way that may seem like armed robbery. Very often when I get out of my campaign, by sunset, my elder brothers and family members keep calling to get me back home for fear of this thing. And sometimes they think that political opponents may disguise themselves as armed robbers and ambush you in a tight corner somewhere and deal with you. So as a politician who crisscross and traverse the constituency both day and night, I am really deeply worried about my security and the security of those who move with me.
I was even coming to that. How concerned are you about your own personal security, given that in the recent past we've heard of reports of MPs and other politicians who are campaigning being gunned down or attacked?
The point I just made is that beyond even myself, my family members are worried, but I'm also taking some precautions to be very sure that I don't find myself in such a situation. But unfortunately, being an era and time for politics, one cannot actually control some of the movements you make, because some of the movements are as a matter of necessity that you should reach out to some constituent somewhere. So without the police service and the security agencies doing the needful to get us protected, we are actually very apprehensive, despite the fact that we are very wary of what could be done to us.
I'm interested and curious to know where these hotspots are within the region. We have a population of about 600,000 people in the region. Where are these hotspots located?
I can speak to those, particularly in the Walawale constituency, because for the last 3 months I have been here and home, and I've experienced a number of the Walawale township is quite a problem. Because of the armed robbery, most of these businessmen have decided to rather not operate late in the evening. They operate in the afternoon. And these gentlemen or women who go about doing this thing have also resorted to daylight attack. Just about some few days ago, in the evening of about 5 o'clock, we had one of them attack. So within the Walawale township is a problem, and most often the shops and then the mobile money vendors are the targets of these operatives. Unfortunately, also, it is very high on the highways to the major market centers in the constituency. On the Walawale-Bulbia Road, we talk of Walawale to Du Road. We also talk of Walawale to Langency, as well as Walawale to Cargo. These are major market centers in the constituency. And because they know people go to those areas with a lot of money, they always will lay ambush on the way and seize their property at gunpoint. So the hotspots are actually along the market center, the roads to the market centers, as well as the Walawale township itself.
And finally, I mean, what are you going to be doing about, this increasing crime rate in your constituency specifically? Have you reached out to the police? Are there any plans to ensure that, there are steps being taken to address the crime rate?
It is unfortunate I'm going to make this statement I'm going to make, but it's very relevant for this discussion. Walawale constituency has become an area where even when there is poor service, it is very difficult for the people to complain, because some leadership in the community think that a complaint about bad service is a complaint about the non-performance of His Excellency the Vice President. I remember some time back last year, there was a youth group that mobilized themselves to embark on some demonstration to drum home the concern of insecurity to the police in the constituency. Some community leader has to prevail on them to stop this demonstration, because they felt it was going to be an indictment on His Excellency the Vice President. And for me, that is unfortunate. So it seems the people in authority do not care about the situation, and the people cannot also get out there to arm themselves to defend themselves. So we are left at the mercy of God and the mercy of the armed robbers.
We'll have to leave it here. Thank you so much for your time. That's Bakari Abdullah. He is the NDC's parliamentary candidate for the Walawale constituency. Moving on, the National Peace Council is asking voters in this year's elections to use the best weapon they have, voting against their political opponents rather than resorting to violence. According to the Peace Council, resorting to violence when there's disagreement is the highest form of uncivilized behavior that could lead to the loss of lives and property. Speaking after a peace march in Cape Coast, Central Regional Chairman of the National Peace Council entreated all political actors to do nothing that will disturb the peace the country is enjoying. Richard Kujinyako has more.
The peace march was put together by Play Soccer Ghana, the National Peace Council, the Coalition of Election Observers, CODEO, with support from the political parties. It was a march through the principal street of Cape Coast and consequently treated themselves to a football game on the AstroTurf of the Football for Hope Center in Cape Coast. The National Peace Council, in an address to the crowd after the march, entreated them to eschew violence and maintain the peace the country is enjoying. The Central Regional Chairman of the National Peace Council, Matthew Egan, implored on Ghanaians to use the best tool they have to vote against their opponent when they split hairs on a matter and not to resort to violence.
Let us respect different political views. When in disagreement, confront the issues, not the person. Attacking a person is violence, and violence is a weapon of the weak. Your best weapon is to vote out your political opponent in the ballot box. The consequences of a non-peaceful election are too many to recount. We don't want to lose our lives, to destroy our properties, live in fear, and be refugees, as we witnessed in some of our neighboring countries.
Country Director of Play Soccer Ghana, Franklin Esio, says the Global Peace Games that are done every year has a purpose of uniting the people and making them eschew violence when they disagree.
And the idea is to use football particularly to promote peace in our communities. We all know the key role that peace plays in development. Yes, so today's program is particularly tailored towards the December polls, and the aim is to promote peace before, during, and after the 2020 elections. Football unites people, football brings the various teams together, and that is how we aim to promote peace.
Programs Manager of Play Soccer Ghana, Anthony Asantehene, urged the political actors to accept the outcome of the elections to save lives and property.
We should all learn to accept the decision, whatever the outcome of the election may be. We should learn to live in peace and in harmony. For this to be the 8th general election we've had, and we haven't encountered any issue of war in Ghana. So let us all try to maintain the peace we have.
Emmanuel Ikpe Kwaku of the CODEO appealed to the people to always remember that they are one people with a common destiny.
We teamed up together to organize this peace walk to send a message that even though we belong to different political groupings, we are still one people living in Cape Coast, we are still one people living in Central Region, and we are still one Ghanaians. So we need to conduct ourselves in a peaceful manner so that come December 7, we will go and cast our votes and then continue to live in peace and harmony.
A football match was organized to round off the activities for the day. This year's Global Peace Games were held to bring the people together for a peaceful election. Richard Kujinyako, JoyNews, Cape Coast.
You're watching Election Brief with me, Arba Kumsin. We're going for a short break, but still ahead, we'll hear from NDC parliamentary candidate for Tema Central, Ebi Bright. That's coming right up. You're welcome back to Election Brief. Now, the NDC's parliamentary candidate for Tema Central, Ebi Bright, says she received threats before 2 of her campaign vehicles got burnt last week. After her failed attempt at securing the Tema Central constituency seat for the NDC in 2016, Ebi Bright launched a comeback and is again on the ballot in the 2020 elections, even though she says she had initially decided in the interest of her family not to stand. She recalls moments before the vehicles went up in flames in an interview with my colleague Mamavi Owusu-Abuaje.
Oh, most definitely. But we're at a place in our democracy right now where there have been enough examples before us and enough experience to be abreast with the reality of a situation. So it's not a game for people that are not serious and are not willing to pay the price, to get into at this moment. And so, like I said, there's been enough experience. A lot of the challenges are a bit old. They might not necessarily be less painful, but you expect them more, and you are supposed to have developed not only a network of support to manage them, but also the skills to be able to either focus specifically on what it is that you're about and ignore, or find ways to get the society to grow along with you, as regards horrible things like that. I say horrible because some of them are really horrible. Having said that, I would say that it's a lot better here than in many places. You have to give credit where credit is due. I'm standing for a political party, for example, which is going to give us a female vice president. This is a first, but look how far away from that woman I am in terms of footsteps. So if people like her have come before, you can't be making excuses today.
Now, our former NDC flag bearer aspirant, Sylvester Mensah, says Ghanaians should find a place in their hearts to forgive the excesses of the military regime of former President Rawlings, John Rawlings. Mr. Mensah was among former schoolmates and government appointees who were at the Accra International Conference Center to sign a book of condolence opened for the late President Maxwell Gbagba Hasbon.
At this time of his departure, we can only mourn and appeal to those who have been victims of the excesses during his regime to have some space in their heart to forgive. Times have been rough, and the times and the manners when he emerged were completely different. The pressures, the demands, the slogans all fed into the actions and the excesses that obtained at the time.
It's day 3 of the signing of the Book of Condolence here at the foyer of the Accra International Conference Center. Well, when you come here, there are portraits and pictures of the former President John Rawlings here, basically summing up his life and what he stood for. Well, a lot of people have been coming here to sign the Book of Condolence. We've had some former students of Achimota School also coming here. I've been speaking to a lady, Gifty Anna Myers, who was a classmate of John Rawlings in the 1950s.
Each Christmas, we held a school play where we were taught to speak, elocution lessons, to speak. And Jerry Rawlings always played the lead role. His portrayal of Mark Antony in Julius Caesar is to be reckoned with. He brought the whole house down. All parents gave him a standing ovation. He was our Prince Charming in Cinderella. Yes, we would never ever forget Jerry Rawlings.
Former Ablekuma South Member of Parliament, Fritz Bafo, says J.J. Rawlings was the one who introduced him to politics. He has been talking about all the good times they had together and the values J.J. Rawlings stood for.
I've known Jerry, His Excellency, the late President, all my life. And I renewed my friendship with him in the late 1980s. And as a result of the friendship and the association, I joined the NDC at the beginning as a founder. I was one of the foundation members. And I've worked with the NDC ever since. I went into active politics at his behest, and I've not regretted it. He was a great man, a passionate man, a very kind-hearted man. And that side of him will come out now that now he's gone, people now can feel free to tell their stories of how he's been very helpful to them in many ways.
I've also been speaking to the 1967 year mate of Jerry John Rawlings. He has been talking about how J.J. Rawlings played an active role in the choir and in the cadet back at Achimota School.
He was not like anybody else. He was his own, very dynamic, did everything, from sport to singing in the choir. Yes, he did. You wouldn't believe that he was a choir boy, a Catholic choir boy. In fact, one of the favorites of the Catholic chaplain of the time, Father John. You won't believe it, but that's true. That's true. And even from school, he was a military man. Yes, he was in the Achimota School Cadet Corps, right from the start until the end.
Let's stay a while longer on the political icon that was J.J. Rawlings. And the NDC in the Northeast region has officially informed the overlord of the Mamprugu traditional area, Na Bakari Abdullah, of the passing of the former president. The late former president was a sub-chief at the Nairi Enskinned Chief of Brightness, a chieftaincy title that he earned from Nagamni for his rural electrification initiative, which saw the extension of power to the northern regions of Ghana. Ilyasu Tanko has more.
The work, which occurred in Nalirgu, the capital of the Northeast region, saw dozens of party supporters clad in red and black attire and holding large banners designed in party colors. Singing local dirges mixed with party songs, the supporters marched to the palace of the Mamprugu overlord to inform the Mamprugu Traditional Council of the death of Jerry John Rawlings as recommended by tradition. Regional Secretary of the party, Ibrahim Tia, explained.
It's a memorial walk in honor of our founder, the former president, Jerry John Rawlings, who passed on. We've gone to the palace to inform the palace about his demise. He was enskinned in Naleru as the chief of Senior Arana. That means he's a subject of the palace. We really need to get the Nairi informed about his passing on. As a result, we've moved with our PC, our Council of Elders, our regional executives, constituency executives, party activists across the length and breadth of the constituency in the region to also present a donation to the Baptist Medical Center in honor of our fallen hero.
The overlord of Mamprugu, Nabohaga Shariga II, said he was saddened by the death of Jerry John Rawlings and prayed for his soul. The overlord also prayed for the party and its executive in his region and wished them well. From the chief palace, the supporters marched to the Baptist Medical Center, where the leadership of the party donated hand-washing detergents to the facility. A former district secretary who served under Rawlings' PNDC regime, Zach Ishmael Abu, who was speaking to JoyNews, eulogized former President Rawlings as the greatest ruler for the people of the North.
May his soul rest in peace. That was a man of action, a man of principle, a man of integrity. J.J. Rawlings never underrated anything. He would always tell you that, look, take the action, I'm quoting him. Take the action, explain yourself, and I will defend you. That is a principle I have quietly and seriously imbibed. So, for this man to go this way, don't let me win. The Northeast region, Rawlings did so well. You know, apart from the rural electrification, all the boreholes you find in the area were initiated by him. So the whole of Mamprugu, there is no area you will go and there's no wana. The rural electrification was one of the issues that he personally took up to make sure that he opens up the north. And that is one other thing we always remember.
The former Rawlings' appointee called on the party supporters to use the occasion to mend their cracks and unite for victory in the 2020 polls.
Supporters of the party, there is nothing, we can't do anything for him again. All that we need to do is that let's imbibe the principle of accountability, probity and accountability, integrity, and move on out. President John Mama Dikukuma Alaji Baba. That is all that we can do for J.J. Rawlings as he is resting perfectly now. May he rest in peace.
The parliamentary candidate for Nalirgu Gambaka, Alaji Baba said to charge the party supporters to fight for victory.
So what I can say is that we expect our youth, we expect the fraternity of the party to continue to campaign vigorously and make sure that we salvage Ghana from this inept party. We salvage Ghana from the kind of corruption that we have. We salvage Ghana from nepotism. We salvage Ghana from the huge in-depth corruption that we're experiencing now. So what we can do is to fight for victory for Ghana. The victory that we're looking for is not victory for NDC. It is victory for Ghana, and Ghana must be emancipated from the shackles of this incompetent government that we have now.
Ilyas Sutanko reporting for JoyNews.
We stay a while longer on Mr. Rawlings because Asantehene Otumfuo Setu II says the former president, J.J. Rawlings, until his death, had a cordial relationship with former President Kufuor. This is in response to the long-standing notion of a feud between the two former presidents. The Asantehene recounts countless instances he sat with the two to hold various conversations. He spoke when the family of the late president visited the palace to inform the king of the demise of Mr. Rawlings. Nanayao Jima, who was at that meeting, will be joining us later on that here on Election Brief. I'm told Nanayao Jima is on the line now. Nanayao, so tell us exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Hello, Nanayao. If you can hear me, what transpired at that meeting between the Rawlings family and the Asantehene? All right, and Nanayao Jima is no longer on the line. Hello, Nanayao.
Yes,
good. Now, I was asking what transpired in that meeting between the Asantehene and the Rawlings family.
So, a delegation of 5 were sent by the family of the late J.J. Rawlings to visit the Asantehene at the Menshia Palace and break the news of the passing of the former president, the Asantehene. The 5 include the children of the ex-soldier and leader of the country, Zaneto and Timothy Rawlings, and also Ambassador Victor Behu, Mr. Michael Tesudis, and Johnny Blagoji, and the 5 came with drinks as demanded by traditions and custom to inform the Asantehene of the passing of the former president, Jerry John Rawlings, and the Asantehene, after receiving the news, told the family that he has already had the information that the former president is no more, and he is very saddened by the incident. According to him, the former president was a brother, not just a friend, but also a brother who came to him on a number of occasions. And he, Asantehene, was instituted in 1999, and since then, they've had a very good relationship. Whenever there are issues, the two had conversations, and Asantehene advised the former president when he was in power, and after he left power, he came to the Asantehene on a number of occasions. And anytime that the former president was saying something about the country, and whenever he said more than he is supposed to, Asantehene said he called him on a number of occasions and spoke to him to tone down, and he did so on a number of occasions. And he has been also speaking about the relationship between the former president, Jerry John Rawlings, and also John Kufuor. And according to the Asantehene, the two had a very cordial relationship, and on a number of occasions, he called the two, sat with them, and spoke with them, and also discussed issues of national interest with the two. So he doesn't know why people say that the two had bad blood between them before the demise of the former president, Jerry John Rawlings. And he also assured the family that whenever his help is needed in the arrangements of the funeral, he, the Asantehene, is willing to join them and also offer the little that he can to make sure that the former president is buried accordingly.
All right, many thanks for that update on that meeting between the former President Rawlings' family and the Asantehene. Moving on, chiefs in the Katamanso constituency have heavily criticized politicians for relegating them to the background. The chiefs say decisions and projects are imposed on them without their input, making them look irrelevant in society. Spokesperson for the Kpone Traditional Authority, Simeon Teinate, said this after a town hall meeting at Oyibi in the Kpone Katamanso constituency. There's more in the following report.
The town hall meeting was an initiative of the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference through the Directorate of Governance, Justice and Peace of National Catholic Secretariat. It was to afford parliamentary candidates avenue to share their vision for the Kpone Katamanso constituency. The event drew stakeholders including traditional leaders, police, representatives of the Catholic Church, politicians and residents. The traditional authorities were not happy as they feel relegated to the background when it comes to decision making. Spokesperson for the Kpone Traditional Authority, Simeon Teinate, says politicians disregard authority of chiefs.
Our position was made clear to them that as traditional authorities, we were there before the emergence of democratic practice within Ghana. And we believe for so long politicians have taken us for granted. Usually, instead of the bottom-up approach, it is rather up-bottom approach, and we believe that is affecting development within the communities. Politicians decide who and what to do in the community without involving the traditional authorities. We believe it is time that when they are doing something, they should come to the base, that is the communities. Because when we were young, what we know is that when there is an opportunity for development, the chief will call the entire communities, and the members of the community will come out with their opinions on what they want and how they want it to be done within the community. But in recent years, what we have realized is that politicians impose development on us.
Coordinator of the town hall meeting, Andrew Natogma, says the Catholic Church believes in citizenship participation in governance.
The role of the parliamentarian as it exists in the Constitution. What does the Constitution say the role of a parliamentarian or the role of the legislature is? Many a times we have found other functions or rules for the MP or for the legislature which does not exist in the Constitution, i.e. inviting MPs or MPs funding, naming ceremonies, MPs paying bride prices, etc., etc. So when they have been exposed to some of these things, as it is contained in the Constitution, then they are better informed after listening to the parliamentary candidates about their vision regarding development and other issues in the constituency. Then the people are better placed to make the right decision, knowing very well that when a candidate comes to you and say that when I will build you heaven and earth, I will take you to the moon, then you are better informed and you make a more appropriate choice.
Meanwhile, Oyibi Frafraha District Police Commander, Superintendent Kweku Bempa, says the police will not spare anybody that flouts the law pre, during and post-elections.
And that's a wrap for Election Brief for today. I'm Arba Kumsi. Remember, Election Brief comes your way every weekday from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. and it's sponsored by Petrosol. Stay with us for more of our programs. The Pulse comes up at 3 with Gifty and Wapia.